Hi everyone, it's Ted. I'm back today on a supplement for Black Powder. This is the last argument of Kings. This is the beginning of the Black Powder with a rules cover. This basically the 1700s up to about 1740, 45, right around there. Uh, this breaks down that period into Austrian Secession, Spanish Secession, Jacobite Wars, and any other little wars that were fought in between that time, which there's quite a few. You will not be left wanting on a set of a period and troops to paint during this time period. So this is just like the basic rules. It's breaking, except this is breaking down to different periods. This covers the Spanish Succession, the Great Northern War between Sweden and Russia, storming of the Danube. This is Austrian and Ottomans. Uh, the War of Austrian Secession, the War of English Secession, um, 7 Years' War, the War in the Colonies. This is the first step into the 7 Years' War, but there's another supplement we'll be showing that goes into more detail about mostly about North America. Covers this also covers the Indian, and it also has raids and invasions. So it does break down some more extra stuff you want to do. So just like the main rules, it has warfare in the age of reason. It tells the background, how the armies fought and stuff, so you get an idea of this kind of combat that's different than what we know of today. So just ranks and ranks of troops firing at each other. It's just a different period, but it does give a nice cover of the cavalry. Yeah, so it covers about 50 years, but not much change. Uniforms changed, and stuff like that, but the style of combat did not change. It's still troops lined up across from each other and just blasted each other. So it just goes in nice lots of details about the periods and stuff like that. Special rules. This covers adds flavor to this time period on uses and stuff. Even you can use elephants. So if you really want to have a spicy table, you can actually add some elephants with cannons on the top of them, gun batteries. So the first one is War of Spanish Succession. It covers the main one, the English general Duke of Marlborough. Uh, and it gives the commander special rules too. So which will add. I said with these a lot of these rules, when I go over how to play the game, I will talk about more of these rules. But it just gives the commanders flavor. So not every general is the same on the table. So you can add the flavor and stuff to your different generals. And it covers a lot of the history of the war, and the forces involved. It gives a quick breakdown of this is the British forces. This gives a how to build an army list in this period. This is the thing that the main rules don't have is building armies. Um, in the original rules, basically you take real historical battles and then you build your army list off of this. This a lot gives you point values, so you can build your own battles. So you could play that way. So it breaks down the armies. And it said more eye candy. It gives you the flavor, and then it gives you scenarios, orders of battle and stuff, different how to play it. Is it more eye candy? Uh, that's again they have the Great Northern War. They're they're the one that general they have is Charles XII of Sweden, one of the antagonists next to Peter the Great. And said this gives a flavor for the general stuff, which helps out. So you have your division generals and you have your main general. There's just the main general just helps out the rest of the army. And it breaks them down how to use pikes with your muskets and stuff like that. It's pointless and stuff. Then you got Peter the Great for the Russians. it gives a nice background of the Russians at the time period, how they fought and stuff, and how what they're thinking of. And it said here's their stats and how to build a Russian army. Then it gives a scenario. Then you have to storm the Danube. This is Austrian and Ottoman. So far, you got three scenarios, but it covers three different nations, or six different nations already. So it's wide. If you do an Ottoman army, you have a very colorful army on the table. That it's a large army, a lot of conscript forces. They can get in there stuck with it, and it just gives a different flavor to it. And said, here's their army lists, and they have elephants. So you can have you want to build an age of musketry. You want elephants in your army. Ottoman's the way to go. I think the Indian armies have you can have elephants too, but I say with Ottomans you can have a very colorful army with flags, banners, and stuff. And some of the armies I've seen, they're gorgeous. So you can really go all out in these guys. But I said, with any of this time period, there is going to be some painting involved because it is mass ranks. It's not skirmish level. So there will be a lot of painting involved. But somewhat easier than others. Like if you're doing an Austrian army through this period, they basically wear white jackets with some color and cuffs. So a little bit easier to paint than other ones, but it's still a lot of them to paint. So that's the biggest hurdle to get when you get into it is the sheer numbers. And they're generally you got the Prince of Savoy, Francis Eugene, one of the Austrians' brilliant generals that really kept them going through this period. And it gives you a battle with the Ottomans and then you get the War of Austrian Succession. Maurice de Saxe. Yeah. French is not my language, so a Marshal of France. He was the French commander, and it gives a brief history behind it, which is really nice. And you can understanding what led up to this, the politics and stuff. Standard. You got your stats for your troops, how to build the troops, and it gives a quick battle. And you got the War of English Succession or the Jacobite rebellions between Jacobites of Scotland and the English. As it starts off, you get a nice. It gives you a brief history. As I said, give you a brief. So if you say, "Oh, I like doing this," then there's other books you can pick up that give more in depth on what led up to these rebellions. There's like three main rebellions that you can fight with the Jacobite wars and stuff. So you can pick any of those three to play. A brief history of the different Highlander rebellion in 1745, which finally crushed the Jacobites. Bonnie Prince Charlie. It gives a brief history of them, but it said this gives you a good start into the period. Then you can get other books to really understand what was going on. It's just the politics you wade through of any of these wars that led up to this. It's just fascinating. Then you got your Highlander army stats, how to build, which is really cool. Highlanders have kill armed guys. A lot of them have hand to hand. You can get weapons and stuff. Then sorry, and it covers a campaign. So if you want to run a campaign in this period, it goes into more in depth on how to build your armies, and a lot of little stuff. So you can really get into a fascinating period in the 1740s and stuff, and the wars that were fought. But you can really get flavors and stuff. Then you come up with the 7 Years' War. You get Mr. The king himself, Frederick the Great. Covers the war in Europe. This is mostly covers the wars in Europe. It touches lightly on the North American wars, but there's a whole supplement to itself for that. So this is the war in the colonies. So I said this touches on the colonial wars, but there's a whole supplement book just on North America, which is going to be next in the series. So then you got the war in India, and it gives a background between the English and French fighting India, with which is another one which you can have very colorful armies because you have British regular armies and French regular with Indian allies on each side. So you can have a rainbow effect on the table with forces for fighting with the Mongols and stuff in India. So you got your native Indians and you got Europeans armies. So this one it combines if you're running French or British or even Dutch. There's some Dutch involved in there too. Um, they make them generic forces. So that even over there wasn't much different between the European forces. Then on this side you have the Indian forces. This is all the different countries in India than between all the royal houses and stuff. The Moguls and the other ones in there, Rajas. That you can build individual armies as elephants, war elephants. Put your leader on a war elephant overseeing the battle. Hey, yeah. No, so that's another very colorful period. Then yeah, it's more 7 Years War. Then in the back you got raids and invasions. It's about how do beach landings, and it has this different historical landings and stuff. So it gives you ideas about that if you want to do something like that and stuff like that. It just gives you ideas. Then it gives a raid on Cherbourg by the English. So more eye candy at the end with the battles and stuff. So it's an idea to get you started in that period, and then at the back it lists a lot of the manufacturers of miniatures. So uh, you can really look for see what miniatures, plastic, metal. The troops majority were different in each period, different uniforms and stuff. So and most of these uh, companies really cover those areas. And so depends on what scale, 15 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 28 stuff. These guys carry it, and so it depends on what you want to get into, what you feel is the best for you. That's all I'm saying. So it gives it gives a good overview of the time period. It gives you ideas. So if you want to get into a period you're not sure, you can pick this up, just go through it, and it just gives a little flavor of the period because that's the biggest daunting is like, okay, I want to get in this period, but where do I start? What do I want? Do I want to tackle the Napoleonic Wars, or do I want to go War of Spanish Succession? So you got almost 200 years to work your way into all the Franco-Prussian Wars. Um, yeah, so it's just mind-boggling what you're looking into, but if you focus on one period that you like, you can really get into it. And once you start researching it, you find out that what you thought is probably not what you thought. A lot of stuff happened from small skirmishes up to major battles. So there's a lot in between that you can work. You can start off with a small battle to get into it. Then when you start building your forces, you can work your way up to a large battle. But yep, so this is a quick flavor. I'll be doing the next one. Next one I'll be doing next will be on Dark and Bloody Ground, the war in North America. So until later, guys. See ya. Keep painting and get those guys on the table.